We developed a Pachachka presentation, 20 slides, 20 seconds per slide, to help summarize our historical fiction unit. The unit and Pachachka was prepared by Alexandria Blos, Brian Lewandowski, Christopher Menarson, and Elizabeth Moore.
Curriculum framing questions provide a structure for organizing questioning throughout projects and promote thinking at all levels. They give projects a balance between content understanding and exploration of intriguing and enduring ideas that make learning relevant to students. Curriculum framing questions guide a unit of study.
This is one of the main standards of our unit. This standard deals with the learner analyzing literary elements such as setting, plot, and theme. In learning what historical fiction is and how it is different from just regular fiction, the student must know how to evaluate literary elements to see if they fit the characteristics of historical fiction. Historical fiction is written to portray a time that's usually about 30 years in the past. The most important literary element is an accurate and/or authentic setting. Historical fiction may have real or imaginary characters and fictional or historically accurate plots. Any fictional aspects must be portrayed authentically as if it actually could have happened. This book follows a 13-year-old boy who lives in Akron, Ohio in 1932. With his family out of work and slowly running out of hope, Rudy must find a way to help his family dig out of the terrible rut they are in. This book is being used as part of the intro experience to help further students' understanding of the literary elements as they relate to historical fiction. Once students are familiar with the characteristics of historical fiction, they will read a short story titled Surviving. The students are trying to answer the question, how can the reader tell what is fact and what is fiction? The students will analyze the story and find examples of the elements of historical fiction, historical events, real places, cultural artifacts, historical language, and realistic characters.
The Great Depression was an economical hardship that took place in the United States from 1929 to 1939 during World War II. It began on October 29, 1929, when the market at the Wall Street crashed and $14 billion were lost. The U.S. lost a total of $30 billion during that week. One of the most important reasons as to why we should teach about the Great Depression is because history tends to repeat itself. Today, the economy is facing recession. Both the recession and the Great Depression are results of massive run-ups in prices following a deflation of the stock market. Similar to the Great Depression, unemployment rates are increasing.
Introducing vocabulary is essential for students to have a better understanding of material covered in the unit. Since our unit dealt with the Great Depression, we picked words that would help students understand that particular time period. We also made sure we covered vocabulary needed to comprehend the selected readings. Being that students often find vocabulary lessons mundane, we came up with an interesting activity that allowed our students to be creative. After we introduced the new vocabulary words, we had the students read a short story from the Dust Bowl and continue the story where the author left off. Students were required to use at least 5 of the new vocab words.
The learner will identify and/or explain stated or implied main ideas and relevant supporting details from text. This was one of our PDA standards and one of our most important standards because it was relevant to almost all of our lessons. For example, when reading Children of the Dust Bowl, the students had to identify the main ideas from the text in order to write an appropriate letter. Children of the Dust Bowl is a true story about the school at Weed Patch Camp by Jerry Stanley. I chose to read segments from this book because it allowed students to develop an understanding of what life was like during the Great Depression and the Dust Bowl. The story includes several actual photographs illustrating the Dust Bowl, and it also allows students to understand how severe weather conditions were. One of our activities in our unit is having students write a letter to a relative in Atlanta pretending to be a farmer in Oklahoma. This letter should be at least 2 paragraphs long. Each paragraph must include a minimum of 4 sentences. This letter should explain whether or not the farmer plans to move down south and why. The purpose of this letter is to assess comprehension of weather conditions during the Great Depression.
This book is a wonderful example of historical fiction because there are many aspects of the book that are historically accurate, as well as many fictional parts that aid in the student's understanding of the characteristics of historical fiction as a genre. The Great Depression is a topic that many 6th graders learn about, so this is another important reason for the choosing of this book.
Macaroni Boy is set in 1933 in Pittsburgh's Strip District. It's about a boy named Mike Costa whose family runs a food wholesale business. The depression is bringing tough times to everyone, and money problems only add to Mike's worries about his beloved grandfather, who is getting forgetful and confused.
We decided to have the students use Glogster to create an electronic poster board. By using Glogster, all students will be working on an even playing field since they all have access to the technology in the classroom to include video, text, and various multimedia aspects to their project. Students will meet this ISTE standard when they create their glog on glogster.com. The students will think creatively, construct knowledge, and develop innovative electronic poster boards by utilizing video, images, and text to complete their project. By utilizing Glogster EDU to create their glogs, students will meet this ISTE standard. The Glogster EDU allows students to work collaboratively and not have to be at the same location while working. This will allow the students to communicate and work from a distance. This key assessment will be graded based on this rubric. The students will be assessed on how thought out their glog was, how much creativity their glog had, that their glog showed what they learned about the Depression era and what happened in Macaroni Boy, and that their presentation was polished and professional.
Enduring understandings and essential questions are the thread that link units, lessons, and year-to-year teaching. They provide powerful tools for focusing daily classroom activity on meaningful goals. They are a way to think about our curriculum that helps us answer the question, why does it matter?